I caught my cheating wife with her, and that was just the beginning. My ex-wife and I are both 26 years old. We've been married for 6 years, and during that time, we've built what I thought was a stable family together. We have a 5-year-old son and a 10-month-old daughter, both of whom mean the world to me. They are my reason for pushing through life's challenges, and I had always believed we shared that bond as parents. I work as a manager at an IT company. It's a demanding but rewarding role that allows me to provide for my family and ensures we never lack the essentials. My ex-wife works as a receptionist at a hospital. Recently, however, she hasn't been working much due to her pregnancy and subsequent maternity leave. Despite the financial strain of being a single-income household for the past year, I never complained. I was happy to support her and give her the time she needed to bond with our daughter. After all, we were a team, or so I thought. Our personalities are quite different. I'm an extrovert who enjoys meeting new people, embracing opportunities, and experiencing life to its fullest. My ex-wife, on the other hand, is more introverted. She finds joy in spending time with close family members and a select group of childhood friends. I always believed our differences made us stronger, that we balanced each other out. I was outgoing where she was reserved, and she was thoughtful where I was impulsive. Together, we were supposed to complement one another. Our typical Saturdays were predictable yet comforting. I'd spend the day running errands, helping my parents with chores, or catching up with friends, while my wife would stay home with the kids. She loved having that time to relax and focus on the little moments with our children. That's why on Saturday, July 1st, 2023, I had no reason to suspect anything out of the ordinary when I left for my parents' house to help them with yard work. It was a simple day, like many before it. But that simplicity was shattered in a way I never saw coming. An ex-employee of mine, a 23-year-old man who had worked under me for only 2 months, showed up at our house while I was away. He was there to return important documents I had mistakenly left at his home the previous day during a work-related discussion. He assumed I'd be home since I rarely worked on Saturdays. Unfortunately, I wasn't. Instead, my wife answered the door, completely unaware of who he was. The man introduced himself, explained that he had worked for me, and handed her the documents. Being the polite person she is, she invited him inside and offered him coffee while he waited for me. I didn't learn about this interaction until days later, but at the time, I had no reason to believe it would be anything other than a routine exchange. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent gesture would unravel everything I believed about my marriage. 2 days later, my phone rang while I was at work. It was a call I never could have anticipated, and it changed my life forever. The voice on the other end belonged to my ex-employee, and what he told me left me speechless. "Do you know about me and your wife?" he asked, his voice cautious yet firm. Confused, I responded, "What do you mean? Please explain." He hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Remember that day last month when you weren't home and I came to drop off the documents? I should have called you beforehand. I'm sorry." "Yes, I remember," I replied, my curiosity now tinged with unease. "After your wife invited me in and offered coffee, we started talking. We quickly bonded over literature. She was very friendly, and I know what I'm about to tell you is wrong, but we started kissing. Then your son came into the living room, saw us, and asked who I was. She told him not to worry and to go watch TV. After that, we went upstairs, and well, you know what happened. I was stunned." "Are you joking? If you're just trying to cause trouble, this isn't funny," I said, trying to process his words. No, it's not a lie, he replied. I thought I should tell you because your little boy saw his mother with someone else. I didn't want you to think I was hiding it if you ever found out. Just remember, your wife is the married one, not me. I didn't force her into anything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I don't believe you, I said, clinging to the hope that this was some cruel prank. That's why I resigned on July 7th, he explained. I didn't know if you knew or not, and I didn't want this on my record. I won't bother you again. I'm sorry. The call ended, but the turmoil within me had just begun. My mind raced with disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. This man had only worked for me for 2 months. There was no way my wife had known him before that fateful day. Yet here I was, hearing a confession that painted an entirely different picture of the woman I thought I knew. When I confronted my wife that evening, she initially denied everything. She claimed the ex-employee was lying, trying to sabotage our lives for some unfathomable reason. But as I pressed her, recounting the details he had shared, she eventually broke down. Through tears, she admitted that he had told the truth. It was a moment of weakness, she said, her voice trembling. I wasn't thinking clearly. I'm so sorry. I deeply regret what happened. She apologized repeatedly, begging me to forgive her. But I was too numb to respond. The hardest part of the revelation wasn't her betrayal, as devastating as that was. It was learning that our 5-year-old son had witnessed part of it. My innocent, curious little boy had seen his mother with another man. When I told her that he had seen her, she cried even harder, saying she had tried to keep him from understanding what was going on. I couldn't stay in the house any longer. I packed a bag and went to my parents' home, where they welcomed me with open arms. They've always been my rock, and in this moment of despair, they provided a safe space for me to process everything. I confided in them about what had happened, and their support was unwavering. Even her family, whom I informed shortly after, expressed their disappointment in her actions and offered their support to me. The days that followed were a blur of emotions. I oscillated between anger, sadness, and a hollow emptiness that seemed to consume me. I thought about my children constantly. How would this affect them? How would I explain this to my son when he's older? Could I ever forgive her, if only for their sake? Eventually, I made the painful decision to file for divorce. I couldn't see a path forward in our marriage after such a betrayal. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and ours had been shattered beyond repair. While my ex-wife continues to plead for reconciliation, I've made it clear that my priority is our children. I'll always be there for them, but as for her, I need to move on and rebuild my life. Looking back, I realize how much I ignored the small cracks in our relationship, believing that love and commitment could paper over them. Now, I'm determined to be the best father I can be, to ensure my children feel safe, loved, and supported. This experience has been a painful reminder that life can change in an instant, but it's also taught me the importance of resilience and self-respect. I'll never forget the day my marriage fell apart. It's a scar that will remain with me forever. But as I move forward, I'm focused on healing and creating a brighter future for myself and my kids. They deserve nothing less. Since moving back in with my parents, I've found myself in a state of constant contemplation. The reality of my new living situation feels like an overwhelming shift. I went from a life that felt, for better or worse, somewhat under control, to feeling completely adrift, unsure of what the next step should be. It's strange how a change in physical space can also shake your sense of identity and purpose. I thought I would have more clarity by now, but the truth is that the more I think about my situation, the more I realize that I'm still grappling with everything, one day at a time. The hardest part has been the separation from my children. Sure, we stay connected through social media, video calls, and occasional messages, but it's just not the same. I miss them terribly more than I could ever put into words. I miss their laughter, their voices, their little quirks that I've spent years learning and loving. The thought of not being there with them day in and day out, watching them grow and change, feels unbearable. Every time we hang up the phone, I find myself longing for the moments I used to take for granted. Just being there. Being a father in the everyday sense. It's at times like these when I question everything: my choices, my marriage, the path that led us here. But after much reflection, and as painful as it is to admit, I've come to the conclusion that there's no saving this marriage. The betrayal that cut through the heart of our relationship has left me broken, and the trust that we once shared has been completely destroyed. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and once that's gone, it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to rebuild it. Her decision to cheat on me has irrevocably altered the course of our lives, and I can't see any way forward that would allow us to be happy together again. Divorce, no matter how painful, seems to be the only option. And yet, even in the face of divorce, there's still the lingering question of how it will all affect my children. The thought of them being caught in the middle, the thought of their worlds being turned upside down, it's a weight I can't fully put down. Divorce isn't just the end of a marriage, it's a seismic event that impacts everything: routines, living arrangements, emotional stability. I don't want my children to feel abandoned or alone in this process. I've heard the horror stories of men losing custody, being relegated to a few weekend visits, and I refuse to let that happen to me. Not when I've done nothing wrong. I've always been a present father, deeply involved in my kids' lives. I can't bear the thought of losing that connection with them, especially when I know the toll it could take on their emotional well-being. They deserve to have both of their parents actively involved in their lives, to feel safe and supported as they navigate this difficult transition. And so, as I look ahead, my primary concern has become making sure that I can maintain a strong, loving, and constant presence in their lives. I'm determined to make sure they know that, no matter what happens with the divorce, I will always be there for them. Living here in England, I know the legal system places the child's best interests at the heart of any decision regarding custody. This provides some reassurance, but I also know that many fathers feel that the system is stacked against them, especially when it comes to issues like shared custody or equal parenting time. That's something I refuse to let happen to me. My children deserve a stable home, and I believe that I can offer that. I know I can be the kind of father they need, the kind of father I always strive to be. The financial aspect of the divorce is another concern that weighs heavily on my mind. The house we own together is one of the few things I've worked hard for throughout our years of marriage. I've invested so much time, energy, and money into it, trying to create a stable, comfortable environment for my family. And now, the idea of losing it, of potentially having to leave the home I've built and put everything I have into, feels like another blow in a series of punches. I'm aware that with her limited income, the division of assets could become complicated, and I don't want to lose the roof over my head or my kids' heads because of someone else's actions. To prepare for the challenges ahead, I've been proactive. I've started researching my rights as a father and a homeowner, trying to understand the nuances of custody battles and property disputes. I've consulted with a solicitor who specializes in family law to gain clarity on my situation. The advice I've received has been invaluable, especially in terms of navigating the difficult emotional and legal landscape that lies ahead. I've also taken steps to gather evidence of the infidelity, including the confession from the employee she had an affair with. This might sound harsh, but I want to make sure I'm prepared for any eventuality. I don't want to be blindsided or caught off guard by anything she or her lawyer might throw at me. The emotional toll of everything that's transpired is undeniable. I've had to confront a whirlwind of feelings: anger, sadness, betrayal, and yes, even guilt. I keep replaying everything in my mind, wondering if there was something I could have done differently to prevent this from happening. Could I have been more attentive? More patient? More understanding? But the truth is, her actions were her own. I can't change them, and I shouldn't blame myself for something I had no control over. I was a dedicated husband. I was a loving father. I gave everything I had to our family, and I refused to feel guilty for something that wasn't my fault. The hardest part of all this, though, has been thinking about the impact it will have on my children. My son is old enough to understand that something is wrong. He witnessed the breakdown of our marriage, and I worry about how this will affect him in the long term. Divorce is never easy, but when it involves children, it becomes even more complicated. I've been doing everything I can to learn about how to support my kids through this process. I've been reading books, seeking advice from professionals, and talking to friends who've been through similar experiences. I know that my children need to feel loved and supported during this time, and I'm committed to making sure they know that no matter what, they are my top priority. Despite all the challenges, I'm determined to rebuild my life. The life I had with my wife may be over, but that doesn't mean my life as a father is. I want to create a new, stable home for my kids, one that's filled with love, laughter, and security. While this chapter of my life may be coming to a close, I'm hopeful that the next one will bring growth, healing, and perhaps even new opportunities for happiness. For now, though, I'm focused on taking things one step at a time. I know the road ahead won't be easy, and there will be difficult moments along the way, but I also know that I'm not alone. I have the support of my family, my friends, and most importantly, my children. They deserve the best version of me, and that's what I'm committed to giving them. I want them to see their father as someone who fought for them, who always put their needs first, and who never gave up on them even when everything else seemed to be falling apart. If anyone out there has been through something similar, I'd appreciate any advice. How can I ensure that I don't lose the house and that I maintain a strong presence in my children's lives? What steps can I take to protect my financial stability and my parental rights? I know this is a tough road, but I'm determined to stay focused on my children's well-being and my future. Your insights and experiences would mean the world to me during this difficult time.